My wife and I got a divorce last year. Our relationship failed after she was charged with felony credit card fraud and ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge. She had been a psalm to our two sons, 5 and 3, and had taken credit cards out in my mom's name to pay for God knows what. She shattered my trust. I work full-time and make a decent living, but nothing extravagant. I had no clue what my wife was doing until cops showed up at my door with a warrant and took my wife away in cuffs and took 2 laptops as evidence. When I got the full story, I filed for divorce immediately. Aside from being a criminal, she was a good mom. She tried to justify what she did by saying she was just doing what was best for our kids, which I felt was total BS given that she never mentioned wanting for anything, and any time she asked to spend on something I almost always said yes. I hired a good lawyer and asked for full custody of my kids. My ex begged me not to do that, saying she needed her kids. But she was still looking at up to a year in jail, and nothing her lawyer said could sway the judge to grant her anything more than supervised visitation. She ended up doing 90 days in jail, paying some fines and restitution, but I've allowed her to see our sons almost every time she's asked. The last year has been total hell, but we've made it work. A few months ago I was offered a much more lucrative position a few states away. I talked with my lawyer about what it would mean if I moved and what the process was. He said that since I have full custody, I have to file a petition with the court to move. So I told my wife what I wanted to do and she exploded. She claimed I was stealing her kids from her, that she's made a lot of strides to get herself to a better place, and that she would fight me tooth and nail for her kids. Well, I filed the petition, got the go-ahead from the courts, and accepted the job. When the judge gave his ruling, my wife burst into tears and began sobbing. It was heartbreaking. I know in my head that I'm doing the right thing for my sons. They are young enough that a move like this won't be too traumatic, but I also feel like their lives have already been completely overturned and I'm just adding more to that. As for my wife, she's a wreck. She's been begging me to reconsider the move, trying everything from guilt trips, manipulation, bargaining. It's like she's going through the stages of grief. But from my point of view, she did this to herself. She lied and broke the law. I have very little sympathy for her. I know at some point she will probably try to file for partial custody and I'm prepared for that. For now, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and my sons. Does that make me an asshole? Edit. Thank you to everyone who commented, even the ones who called me a heartless oaf for taking my sons away from their mother. This post has given me a lot of perspective and I appreciate that. A couple things I want to clear up that I keep getting asked about that I wasn't able to include in my original post. The area my sons and I live in is a smaller community. Not everyone knows everyone small, but close. The crime my ex committed was news here. It was in the paper. People know about it. I get weird looks when I'm out in public. People have stopped inviting my sons to birthday parties. I don't want my sons to be bullied and teased in school about their mother being a criminal. I am not going to permanently alienate my sons from their mother. I will make sure they are able to talk and FaceTime with her whenever they want. I will be the one who makes the drive back in order for them to see her until she is able to make arrangements to allow her to do so. I will continue to work with my ex to make sure she is included in things like birthdays and holidays. I know my sons and I will all need therapy from this. There is not good mental health help available where my previous job is. My new job offers on-site childcare and I will have access to counseling and therapy for myself and my sons that we would not have access to without moving. The schools near my new job are head and shoulders above the ones near my previous job. If my ex gets her life back on track and is able to move closer to us, I'm all for it. If she does the things she needs to do in order to petition for shared custody, I don't intend on fighting her for that. But until she does that, I will not allow her anything more than the supervised visits ruled by the court. I will also not ask for any of the court-ordered child support. We won't need it. To all the people who screamed, but she's their mother. Yes, and she always will be. And I remind my sons daily that their mom loves them very much and that she wishes she can be with them like before. I am angry and resentful of my wife, but I work very, very hard to not let any of those feelings impact my sons and their relationship with their mom. Lots of comments from Oop, so a quick explanation of what the ex did. Oop, she took out multiple credit cards in my mom's name after getting her SSN somehow. Racked up about $30,000 before she got caught. My mom alerted her credit card company when she saw a couple unauthorized credit checks from different credit companies, and then the authorities got involved. I had no clue. She apparently spent most of the money on clothes and toys for the kids, makeup and clothes for herself. But that's a shitload of toys and clothes, so I find it hard to believe. Op says the kid's credit is clean. She didn't just break the law, she broke my trust. She defrauded my own mother of $30,000. My elderly mother who lives on a fixed income. My mom has spent the last year putting her life back together after a person who she loved like her own daughter betrayed her. The amount of people dismissing my ex's actions without thinking of the consequences of what she did is staggering. My ex's crime might not have been violent or abusive, but the wounds are still there and will take time to heal. The whole "but she's their mother" stuff is BS. She'll still get to see our sons, I will make sure she does. But she has a long, uphill climb to earn my trust back. Oop, she was a psalm by choice. She had a college degree, ironically in criminal science. Our state is a 50-50 divorce state, so she's still got half our assets in the divorce, and since both our names are on our house title, she'll get half of that if we sell it. I'm no lawyer, so I don't know what identity theft does to one's credit rating, but I imagine it doesn't help it. She's not completely destitute. If she is allowed to move closer to us, I will welcome that and continue to work with her so she can be in our sons' lives. Oop, she was obviously very caught off guard. No one saw this coming. She had to go through so much BS to get her credit cleared up, get credit charges nullified, try to rebuild her credit. She wanted the book thrown at my ex and cussed out the prosecutor for offering a plea bargain. How his mother is doing now, barely getting back on her feet. She's on a fixed income, so this really put a strain on her. I will probably have to step in at some point and help her. Yet another reason I want to take the new job and increased pay. Oop, in our state her original charge was felony grand theft. That carries a 15 to 25-year prison sentence. She got a plea deal from the prosecutor that dropped it below felony level, mostly because it was her first offense. Oop, I don't know her full financial situation. I know she's working a couple part-time jobs and has a small 2BR apartment. Whether or not she could move, I don't know. She's under probation, so she'd need to apply to move anyway. My new job pays over twice what my previous did. It's a huge opportunity for me to provide a better life for my sons. I don't want to sit around here and wait for my ex to get her shit together. Oop, I do not intend on isolating my sons from their mother or preventing her from seeing them. But I also will not allow anything other than court-approved, supervised visits. FaceTime and all that stuff. I will work with her to make sure she gets to talk with them. But there will be no weekends at mom's place until the court gives the okay. I'm not saying I believe she will try to run away with my kids, but I also never believed she would defraud my mother of $30,000. Oop, she spent the majority of it on makeup and designer clothes. Oop, I haven't put too much thought into that part yet, but I do not intend on completely isolating them from her. If she can figure out a way to see them, I will not prevent that. I imagine holidays will be something we need to figure out as well. But like I said, I do not intend on preventing her from seeing our sons. She's court ordered to pay child support, but so far I haven't seen a dime and I haven't asked. You may need to think of it. If she is on probation, she may not be able to come to you, and frankly, I'm not sure she'll be able to afford to travel to you anyway, as she was a SOM. I'm not saying that you aren't doing what's best for your kids, but I feel like you are just screwing your ex because you're hurt/angry/sad, all totally valid feelings, about the situation. And using your sons in the process. So, I'm going with ESH, except your sons. Oop, I will admit that part of me wants to move so that I can get a fresh start as well. The last year has been total hell for me. I'm trying not to use my kids as pawns here, but I know this job can offer us opportunities that my current job just can't match. Update 1. I did end up taking the new job and moved with my sons. We have been settling into our new lives quite nicely over the last month and things have been going really well. My sons love the new house, they have made friends with some other kids their age in the neighborhood. My job has been going really well and I really couldn't have hoped for things to go better than they have. I got both of my sons into a great therapy program and the three of us have also been doing counseling sessions together. My boys have been adjusting amazingly well and I'm so happy and proud of how they've handled this. We've also made 2 trips back to see their mother since she is still in the process of figuring out what she will be allowed to do in relation to her probation. We've also been doing many video calls a week with her. My sons still don't understand why their mom isn't here with us, but they do seem to grasp that this is going to be their new normal. In comparison with how well myself and my sons are adjusting, my ex is the complete opposite. She is still very angry with me and thinks I'm a complete a-hole. She's frustrated with the process of going through the courts to be allowed to move. She's frustrated that I'm not willing to drive our sons back to see her as often as she'd like. She feels she's being marginalized in their lives and that I am pulling them away from her. When she was complaining about all of this during our last visit, I reminded her that all of those things are consequences of her own actions and she blew up at me by saying I'm kicking her when she's already down and I didn't need to take her sons away from her. I told her how well our sons are doing and how happy they are and she should be proud of how strong and resilient they've been. She then started begging me to please move back so that she can be closer because she's not sure the courts will allow her to move and the process is taking too long. I told her that wasn't going to happen, but if there is anything I can do with the court process, that I would be willing to help if I can. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support, but that our boys seem to be in a much better place already and I'm not going to take that away from them. Every time we have a video call with her, as soon as she says goodbye to our son, she starts asking me to consider moving back home. I tell her every time that it is not happening. I'm not a robot and I do feel bad to see her so desperate and distraught, but when I look at my sons playing and laughing with their new friends, I know I've done the right thing no matter the cost to my ex. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support. Oop, it's a token amount based on her income. With my higher salary I don't need her help to provide for our kids, but she hasn't made an effort to pay anything yet either. Oop, she already blames me for a lot of things, we'll just add that one to the list. Oop, the effects on my kids have been positive. They are laughing, playing with friends again instead of being ostracized by people who punish them because of what their mother did. They are in therapy that we wouldn't have had access to previously. They are in childcare programs that are head and shoulders above what we had access to previously. My priority is my kids, not my ex-wife's feelings. Update 2. I have full custody of my 2 sons that I have with my ex-wife. See my past posts for some backstory on our relationship and why I have full custody. Because I now live a few states away from where my wife lives, I always knew that this holiday season was going to be difficult. For Thanksgiving this year I made the drive back to my wife's place so that she could spend the holiday with our sons. During this visit, I talked with her about plans for Christmas and told her that due to potential winter weather and the pandemic, I would prefer not to drive the kids to her again for Christmas. She did not like this and blew up on me about how I was isolating her from the kids. This was after I just drove hundreds of miles so that we could spend Thanksgiving together. I told her this was not up for debate and that we see and plan for something in the spring once the weather warms up and the pandemic hopefully calms down a bit. I did however make sure to do a FaceTime call with her and the kids on Christmas Eve and told her that I would do the same thing on Christmas morning so that she could still see the kids open gifts that she sent to them. But when I went to call her on Christmas morning, she didn't answer. I tried back a couple of times but she didn't answer and the last time it went straight to voicemail. Then, around dinner time, the doorbell rang. It was my ex. Of course, the boys were excited to see her, but I had a serious WTF moment. For a second, I actually thought about not even letting her in the house. But my sons were so excited to show her all their new toys that I couldn't do it. After things calmed down a bit, I asked her what the hell she was doing. She said she couldn't handle a Christmas away from her kids so she made the drive to see them. I told her it was messed up she did this without telling me but she said if she told me then I would have told her not to come. I then asked her if she got the okay from her probation officer and she said of course she did. She then asked if she could stay for the night since she didn't have a hotel and I allowed her to sleep in my guest room. Before I went to sleep that night, I sent an email to her probation officer asking if she had really asked for permission to travel. Since it was Christmas weekend I didn't hear back from them right away and my ex left the next day to head back home. That Monday, I got an email from the probation officer thanking me for reaching out to them and asking for a little more information which I provided. A couple days later I get a call from my ex and she's screaming at me and calling me an asshole for contacting her probation officer. Apparently she hadn't told them or asked them and now she could potentially land back in jail. She is accusing me of purposely trying to get her sent back to jail so that I can keep our kids away from her forever. That was never my intention, but I can kind of see why it looks like that to her. Does contacting her probation officer make me an asshole? Now on to second story. Brother disinvited me from his wedding after I mentioned bringing my boyfriend. Now my parents are pressuring me to apologize and reinstate. I, 27 male, am gay. I came out at 16 and my parents told me they would always love me, but to not mention it to my older brother who I'll call Brick, then 19 male, 30 male now. When I was confused and asked why, they said that Brick had expressed some awful opinions about gay people. I limited talking to Brick until I moved out at 18, which wasn't much of a problem because we were never close. I went to uni, got good job, and an awesome boyfriend, 28M, in my home city. Me and my boyfriend Angel live a peaceful life. Peaceful until a few days ago when I got a call from my brother. I was concerned that Brick was calling me, as we have never messaged before, just hit each other's numbers for emergency purposes. I picked up because maybe there was some emergency happening. He opened the call with an annoyed "Hey man," and I knew something was up. He said he was getting married to his fiancée Yen, 24F, next year. I didn't even know he had a girlfriend. I was like that's great Brick. And asked some boring wedding things that he begrudgingly answered. He then told me invites were being sent out in a couple weeks, and that I could bring A+1. Here's where I made the mistake that started this mess. Without thinking like an idiot, I said, cool, I'll bring my boyfriend. Major mess up. Brick immediately started yelling insults down the line, screaming that he wouldn't have an F slur at his wedding. I didn't say anything and just hung up. I was rattled by hearing those words from my own brother's mouth, even though I knew his feelings about people like me. I told Angel, and he comforted me, ordering in my favorite restaurant and watching movies with me, which was awesome. We went to bed later and I felt alright the next day. I sent my parents a message that Brick invited me and uninvited me from his wedding pretty much in the same breath, and went on my way to work, not a clue of the crapstorm waiting for me when I got off. When I turned my phone on again after my shift, it was blowing up. Messages and calls from my parents and relatives galore asking me what the F happened. I phoned my parents back when I got home and gave them the rundown of what happened, and said I honestly didn't care because it's not like Brick would be coming to my wedding anyways. My parents immediately chastised me for my obvious disinterest and disregard of my brother's life and told me I should be apologizing to him for bringing my personal life into his wedding. What? I basically told my parents to screw off and have been getting bombarded with messages from relatives to apologize to my brother and get my invite reinstated, and apologize to my parents for disrespecting them, but I really don't want to. Angel's reassuring me that I did nothing wrong, but it's still nagging me. Ida? Oop, he's never been my biggest fan, honestly. We were very different as kids, like polar opposites, and he didn't like that, very on brand for him. He definitely didn't know I was gay before the call. My parents have kept it very under wraps for years. In terms if he was being forced to invite me by my parents, I really have zero clue. Update 1. Y'all have really opened my eyes on a lot of issues in my family. I apologize for only replying to a few comments, there's just so many of you. Big shout out to all the people who gave compliments to Angel. I showed him this post last night and he thanks you all. I've been showing him lots of love because he really is an angel. And to the people calling this fake, AI, cliche and whatnot, I hate to break it to you all, but this is just my life. It sounds cliche because this is the sort of, all too real thing that happens to many people in the community. Just move along if you want to say that stuff, because you're honestly just wasting your time. One of two things I would also like to address is people questioning me about thinking I could possibly be the I in this situation, and all I can say, is that when you have a mass of people telling you you're wrong for what you did, it's hard to not maybe believe them just a little bit, no matter how absurd it is. Second thing, for people wondering how no one in the family knew I was gay, I really was never / am not close with my extended family, as they all live in different provinces, and my immediate family never traveled. We really just send each other holiday and birthday messages, and have brief conversations whenever those are sent, and I just never had the urge to come out to them. Anyways, onto the update. I decided I didn't want to let this sit for any longer. I took a day off work, and I added my parents, Brick, and all the family that messaged / called me into one big group chat, for one advice I saw here. I laid out everything that went down to them, in case they were told a different story by my parents and brother. I told them that I was going NC with my parents and Brick no matter what, and if they didn't apologize and realize what they did wrong, or I cut them off too. I turned my phone off and continued on without it for the rest of the day. Once I turned my phone on again, I had lots of messages from them. My parents were outraged, and Brick said nothing. Some of my extended family apologized and told me that my parents just told them I was mean to Brick about some of his wedding plan choices, which got me uninvited. Still trying to wrap my head around how stupid that is. Seriously think my parents might be Neanderthals. Anyways, the real story made others even more angry and more insistent that I apologize, and they were promptly blocked. I didn't answer any of my parents' texts / calls and be locked. I feel like I have a weight off my shoulders. I'm not concerned about my parents showing up at our apartment, as they moved away from my city last year. Me and Angel are planning a lovely trip, per advice of a lot of people that we thought was great, to France to visit his family during when the wedding will be taking place, which I'm very excited for. I've heard nothing but good things about them.